So tell me your name if you want.
Brendan.
And this is okay if I put this on YouTube?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So what's your basic spiel?
I don't really have a basic spiel. I kind of go question by question.
Okay. Well, so before we were talking about whether an employee-employer relationship is exploitative.
Exploitative.
And I was saying no. So why do you think it must be?
Because bosses, people in upper management, the people who have these top floor offices here, they don't work. They don't produce anything. They sit at the top and they count money, and their money makes money for them. They don't provide anything for society. They suck wealth out of it.
Well, most of us aren't familiar with a lot of what a CEO does, but like Steve Jobs made the news, right? And so he was the CEO of Apple, and apparently, by all accounts, he came up with some genius ideas for innovative products.
Yes, and he absolutely did. He was probably one of the best thinkers of our time when it comes to computers.
Okay, so you're granting that some people who had companies are innovative and have good ideas.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so then where does the problem arise then?
The problem arises. Apple is a great example. Factories in China and across Asia that produce Apple products for Apple computers have some of the worst working conditions of any factory in the world. I think it's horrible that people who work their ass off in slave-like conditions to produce electronic goods for us can never afford those goods themselves because of the wages they earn.
Well, I mean, my understanding is Apple's actually taking off in China in a big way. So even Chinese are becoming much more economical.
Yeah, China has a growing middle class, but unfortunately most of China still lives in poverty. And part of that is because of, Western corporations using China's cheap labor.
Well, the contrary claim is that to the extent that China is succeeding, is to the extent that China is adopting Western capitalism.
Yeah, China abandoned socialism years ago.
And isn't that a good thing? I mean, to the extent that they have.
I'm not going to say it's good or bad. I think they did it just for pragmatic reasons because they want to get ahead in the world. They want to rise up to be the next superpower. Yeah. I'm not going to say it's a good or bad thing that they're adopting capitalism though, because what they called communism was fucked up and brutal and terrorized and killed millions, and capitalism does the same thing.
I don't understand that because the free market nations of the West are not aggressive nations. So how?
Yes, we are a very aggressive nation. How many countries are we bombing right now? 5 or 6? That's a very aggressive act.
Granted, we've been in.
We stick our nose in other people's business, far too often. Capitalism is very aggressive. It requires a cutthroat mentality for people to want to exploit the labor of others.
But so let's get back to that, right? If I hire you for a job, you agree to take the job. Apparently you're getting something out of it if you agree to take the job.
Yes,
so how are you being exploited?
Because if I would say you hired me to dig ditches in your yard all day, and you had some real urgent need for those ditches, you had to plant 1,000 flowers. You hired me to dig the ditches, I work for $10 an hour for 10 hours, make $100. And you hire someone else to go plant the flowers, you pay them the same rate, pay them $100. But then you were to go sell the same flowers for $100 each and make, I don't know how much money that would be.
But doesn't it take work? It takes work though to go find the market for the flowers and to organize the sales, right? So why shouldn't you be compensated?
Yes, it does. But that's only that's a minimal part of the work though. The man digging the ditches worked his ass off. The man planting them,
like calories burned, maybe, but no, I mean there's such thing as intellectual work, right? Or
yes, I do believe there's intellectual work and intellectual property, and I think those things do need protected though. But I don't think because you're the owner of intellectual property. Or you do intellectual work doesn't mean you have any right to exploit people based on physical labor.
Well, let me go back. Let me go to a general kind of Occupy question, right? So, what do you think of the criticism when mainstream America sees anarchy sign or the Karl Marx emblem or the Soviet sickle? They're going to think, "Wow, those guys are a little bit on the fringe and a little nutty." Do you think that you're pushing? I mean, how do you see you pushing your message in a positive way? I guess.
In a positive way, just here giving out literature, trying to talk to people like this interview.
Okay. Do you think it'll be effective in terms of persuading people?
I think I've been effective in some cases. Some people can't be persuaded. I don't know how to measure the success at an event like this yet.
Okay. Well, thanks for the interview. Appreciate
Thank you. I'm Brendan, by the way.